All right, here we go. Third episode of Wings Up Weekly, brand new Tennessee Tech athletics video podcast as we aim to stay connected throughout this unique time. Second straight week we have a head coach on. I'm pumped about it. I know she's pumped about it. She's Tennessee Tech head women's basketball coach, Kim Rosamond. Coach, great to see you. How are things?
Good, Dylan. Long time no see. Great to see your face as well.
Well, it's great. Let's jump right into it. One of the first things that we've been doing here on Wings Up Weekly, and one of the most important things, is to get an update on the team. So what can you tell us about how the members of Tennessee Tech women's basketball are doing?
Yeah, our basketball family is hanging in there. Everybody's doing well. Everybody is home currently with their families. Our staff is still here in Cookeville, but everybody's doing well. We're staying connected. We have weekly Zoom calls, weekly check-ins. We talk about 3 and 4 times a week. Our staff's doing an excellent job staying connected with our players. Our players are doing a great job staying connected with us, staying connected with each other. Right now, our biggest focus is just making sure academically we finish this semester strong. I think we've got a chance to do some really good things again in the classroom, and we want to make sure our players finish that on a great note. And so once they get finished next week with exams, we'll start doing a few more team things, whether it be bringing in a guest speaker via Zoom weekly or, talking a little bit more basketball. But right now, the last, what are we, 7 weeks in now? I think the last 7 weeks have just been mainly focused on academics, their mental health, how their families are doing, and just trying to stay connected.
It sounds like you've been able to stay connected. What sort of adjustments have had to be made to be able to stay connected? I know you mentioned some virtual meetings with the team, so kind of take us through some of the process in being able to stay connected with the team, and then of course the coaching staff as well.
Yeah. Well, I think right now the biggest shout out I have to give is to Emily Hatfield, our director of operations, because without her, we would probably be lost right now. She's our brains behind the organization for sure, especially when it comes to a technology standpoint. And so she's really done a great job I've learned a lot about Zoom over the last couple weeks. I think before this, I was a little more old school in the just picking up the phone and call you. And now I'm getting used to the Zoom calls and the FaceTimes. And so now when I talk to people, even by phone, it feels a little bit weird because I sit in front of my computer all day. So I think that's been the biggest adjustment, is just the technology piece of it. But, it's amazing. Obviously our country is and the people in our country and elsewhere are going through a whole lot right now. A lot of people are having a very, very difficult time. There's been death. There has been a lot of tragedy with this. And so, we continue to pray for our leaders. We continue to pray for all of those who have been affected, even more than what we have. But, anytime there is something like this, there's also an opportunity for change and for growth. And so, we really have no choice in this other than to say, hey, how can we come out of this better? And how can we respond and not react? Which is, if you listen to me talk or our staff or our players talk, that the response is a big part of our culture, and respond positive. And that's what we've tried to do. And so, it's forced us to change. It's forced us to do some things differently, probably out of our comfort zone, but it's also made us better and taught us, really a new way of communication. And, we wanted to really focus on building trust through this and continue to grow as a team. And I think we found creative ways to do that within what technology allows you to do these days.
One of the interesting things about the time period of all this, and as you brought up, it's been 7 weeks, so just about 50 days, is the fact that your season had just ended, but then of course there's so much to do in terms of tying a ribbon around the year, and then of course starting to transition into the next season. What normally would you guys be doing around this time, and then how much has these new circumstances changed that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It didn't allow for a whole lot of just closure on the season. And I think what you hate it for most is obviously our seniors in Anacia and Akia. You hate that we didn't get to celebrate them at the end of the year like we would have wanted to, you know, with a banquet, you know, and enjoy and reflect, you know, on the positive things, because a lot of positive things happened throughout this season. So you hate that it had to end that way. But again, you know, you can only control what you can control. So fortunately, I had already done our end of the year meetings. We always, before we start our postseason workouts, we always have one-on-one individual meetings about talking about the season, what we learned from the season, things we want to get better on both ends. You know, if I ask our players to grow, I have to continue to grow as well. So it's, you know, just a meeting of, hey, you know, what did we feel good about? What are areas we need to grow together? And how do we want to be better for next year? So fortunately, I had actually had all of those before all of this hit. And so normally we would be going into, you know, the last 8 weeks of the semester and go into workouts. We would go into an 8-hour period. We would transition from 20 hours a week into only having them 8 hours a week, 4 of which could be basketball, 4 of which could be conditioning and weights. And so we would have been on the court with them about 3 or 4 days a week, but no more than 4 hours a week. So we would have been doing a lot of just individual skill development that, you know, right now we're missing out on. But, you know, this is a time where accountability is one of the core values in our program, and it's been no bigger individually than what it is right now, because really it is on our players right now to continue in a safe environment. You know, we don't want them doing anything, you know, that they shouldn't be doing, but whether it be in their driveway or whether it be push-ups in their living room or, you know, running around their neighborhoods trying to stay in shape. You know, it is truly an individual accountability piece right now, so that when we do get back, and we will get back at some point, we will get to the other side of this, and that they come back, you know, in good shape.
Well, I'm excited to get the chance to talk to a basketball coach here on Wings Up Weekly, because if you think kind of the role that basketball has played in all this, you go back to the NBA suspending its season, that seemed to trigger the NCAA canceling March Madness. What I've learned in the last few years is how tight-knit and close basketball coaches in that community really are. So have you been able to have conversations or connect with other coaches as you kind of are all navigating these uncharted waters?
No question. You know, this is we're in the middle of history, honestly, right now. You know, people are going to write about this, and we're a living part of it. And it's also a time that, you know, hopefully we'll never see again. But it's also a time that we'll also never get back. In a coach's life, you never have this type of downtime. Number one, to spend with your loved ones, with your friends, with your family. Number two, to also work on your craft and to grow individually as a coach. And so I have, what's been really cool to see is the coaching community come together, and the different platforms, whether it be, you know, Zoom or the virtual coaches clinics that are happening literally all day, every day. It's almost like mass overload. There's so much good stuff out there, you get overwhelmed because you want to do everything, but you can't do it, you know, you can't do it all. So, and just seeing the different people that have stepped up, whether it be leadership platforms, you know, that this is their business, and normally they're charging some type of price for what they're providing, you know, offering it to coaches free right now during this difficult time, you know, whether it be leadership, whether it be X's and O's, whether it be communication platforms. It's been a really, really cool thing to see, of people, you know, not just in the basketball community, but you specifically asked about that. You're seeing that all over the world right now, how other people are helping others. And I think you're especially seeing that within our coaching community.
Well, no games right now, of course, means less content, really less news. But from a Tennessee Tech perspective, one of the bigger stories to come out over the last several weeks had to do with your team winning the OVC Team Sportsmanship Award. What does that mean to you, and what does it say about the group of players you have?
Well, Dylan, when we got here in April of 2016, the first thing that we tried to do was establish, our culture, and I think it just speaks volumes about our culture. This is an award that we've won 2 of 4 years since we've been here, and so and not only does it speak volumes about our culture, it speaks volumes about the young women that are in our culture. And it's the people that make the culture. It's not the culture, it's the people that make the culture. And I just can't say enough about the young women that represent Tennessee Tech and how they represent not only the women's basketball program, how they represent the university, the community of Cookeville. There's a reason why we're one of the top teams in attendance. And it is because of our players. It is because of who they are as people, how they carry themselves, how they treat others. Now we're competitors, and when we get on that court and between the lines, we have one mission and one goal, and that's to be the best that we can be. But at the same time, there is a level and a standard of sportsmanship and how we want to represent ourselves when we are between those lines and when we're outside those lines. And so I am very, very proud of who our players are and how they represent us. And it's also a credit to our assistant coaches because, in order to have the people, you have to recruit the people, and you have to recruit the right people. And I think our assistant coaches and our staff does such a great job of identifying not only talent, but character. And that piece goes hand in hand in our program. And so I think it just speaks volumes about that.
Without a doubt, obviously just an awesome award. With less games right now and less content, one of the things we're seeing, and it's not just from a Tennessee Tech perspective, but across the board in sports, has been looking back at old games, watching historical games, famous games, reading
The
about
Last Dance, right?
exactly Last Dance. I'm sure we'll get into that basketball right there. But what I want to know, since you've been the head coach at Tennessee Tech, there's been a lot of awesome games, great games and moments. What would be one that sticks out in your mind since you've been the coach here?
Ooh, I don't know that I could just pick one. I think there's been several. I'll go back to our first year, and I believe it was our very first conference game of that first year. We had not been very good in the non-conference and had really struggled through non-conference, and we went up to SEMO, and I remember Shug Hickson. I think she went off for about 28 or 30 points in that game, and so to get our first conference win as a staff, as a program, since our staff arrived, and to do it on the road, at SEMO, and to see Shug play the way that she played, and our entire team just rally around her. That really stands out to me because we weren't real sure how many of those we were going to get that first year, and I think it was just a huge confidence builder. Then I go to the second year when all of these juniors, soon to be seniors, were a bunch of freshmen, and they were a bunch of young pups, and we had struggled and had been in every game and just really had a difficult time finishing. And we went to Jacksonville State. I believe may have been their education day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And our kids just played so tough and so well. And, that's one of the toughest places in the league to win. And so that was a really huge moment in that season for us. And it helped us really finish strong that year. And then you go to last year with the Belmont. I could go down the line with the wins last year. Some of the ones that stand out this year was the EKU double overtime win. The excitement that was in Hooper Evelyn that night. It just, it was a shame that anybody had to lose, which we were real happy we won. Okay, don't get me wrong, but I thought both teams EKU played so well that night, and I thought our kids played extremely well. We had some adversity in that game, but they never quit. They never gave up. And even when you felt like the momentum was shifting, our kids just found a way that night. And that was also a credit to our fans. I thought it was one of the best atmospheres since we've been here in the hoop. And so, there's a long list of them. So a long answer to a short question, Dylan.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got me fired up. I'm thinking about like calling some of those games and how much fun that was. The atmosphere that night against Eastern Kentucky, without a doubt. So a lot of great moments. How about from a non-Tennessee Tech perspective? In all the years I've known you, actually not sure what your favorite professional teams are or some of your favorite athletes. So what would be a game, a team, a season, a player that stands out to you on a professional level?
Well, you got me talking about The Last Dance right now, right? That's all anybody's talking about. And I think we're all counting down until Sunday at 8 p.m. gets here so we can just get a little bit more. But it's been so cool to go back and to watch the run of the Bulls. I can't tell you, I watched more NBA basketball back then, probably than I do now. Now I had a little bit more free time back then than I do now, but how fun it was to just watch who, in my opinion, is the greatest player of all time in Michael Jordan, and to now get an in-depth look behind the scenes of what kind of teammate he was, the standard that he set every single day. I loved watching those teams play, and our first couple of years here, we ran a little bit. We ran the triangle, which is what those get. So it's fun to sit there and watch Phil Jackson and Tex Winter talk about the triangle offense. And but as far as, just an NBA team, that is absolutely one of my favorite teams, and talking about a WNBA, my former college coach, Van Chancellor, was the coach of the Comets, the 4-time world champions when, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson, those guys were all together. And so, just from a female athlete perspective, to see the start of that league. I had just graduated college at that time, back in 1998, and that league started that summer. And to see women have professional opportunities in the United States and not have to go, thousands upon thousands of miles away from their family in order to do it. Just how inspiring that was, to an athlete, to a future coach. And I just remember that group so well and how they played together and just how fearless and how competitive. To watch them compete like they did, it was just a lot of fun. And to see my former college coach win four world championships was also pretty neat as well.
I'm so pumped and excited that you brought that up, because that was kind of going to be the next avenue we were going to go down. If you look at live sporting events, obviously you just had the NFL draft last weekend. I want to talk about the WNBA draft. There's a big reason why is Tennessee Tech women's basketball social media that night was all over your assistant, Krystal Kelly, Houston Comets, 31st pick overall.
Absolutely.
What I started thinking about while watching that or seeing the tweets and everything over social media, it sort of hit me like, wow, how cool is that? There's someone on your staff who was not only drafted to a WNBA team, but played in the WNBA. That's great.
No question. I mean, what a tremendous opportunity for our kids. Well, first of all, Krystal's just an amazing human being. If you've been around her, her energy is contagious. She walks in the room and you immediately want to smile. And so, from a personal standpoint, I just love Krystal, the human being. But when you start talking about Krystal, the player, I go back, I watched her play in high school. Now I'm going to date myself a little bit. Coach Walls and I actually tried to recruit her when we were young assistants at Middle Tennessee, and she chose our rival, Western Kentucky. And so we played 1 year against her when we were at Middle, her freshman year. And actually, I still give her a hard time about this to this day. We beat her in the conference tournament, and we ended up winning the championship that year. But I'll tell you, CK was one of the most decorated high school athletes to ever come out of Kentucky. Now, Coach Pell may argue with that, but he was pretty decorated as well. But she was a phenomenal high school player. Could have went anywhere in the country. and chose to stay at home at Western Kentucky and left that program as the all-time leading scorer, all-time leading rebounder. Then got drafted 31st in the WNBA draft and played several years in the league. And so just the perspective that she's able to bring to our players, we talk to our players about being pros, about handling their business like a professional player. And what better person to actually talk to them about that than somebody that's actually lived that. And Krystal's been on that side of it. And so I think she brings a really unique perspective that you're not going to find on every single staff.
And you touched on this, spoke to it earlier. Obviously, Krystal Kelly and everything she brings to the table. The rest of your staff, and I'm finding myself reading all of these things that Allison Clark has been posting on social media during this unique time, everything with Coach Melanie Walls and how valuable she is. You spoke about your director of operations, Emily Hatfield, and how critical she's been during this time. I'd have to imagine that having this sort of staff that you do has been just awesome throughout this unique period.
There's no question. It all starts. It all starts with our players. Our assistant coaches will tell you that. But just as important as our players, our assistant coaches have been what has driven the turnaround here for us at Tennessee Tech. And, Coach Walls and Coach Allie have been with me from day one. And they have been through it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the breakthrough. And we're just getting started. We are just getting started. And, I can't say enough about who Allie Clark is as a human being and what she's meant to Tennessee Tech in this program. When you walk in the hoop and you walk in and you see all those purple banners, those women's basketball championship banners, she's been part of that. And so she knows this program inside and out, and it's personal for her. There is nobody that loves this program more than Allison Clark. And so what she's been able to do as a recruiting coordinator for us has been tremendous. Her relationship building, and she is so loved in this community. The only thing I worry about losing her to is politics one day. I hope she doesn't decide to run for political office, because I think she could win just about any election there is. And then Coach Walls, Coach Walls has been somebody that I have just respected for so long. I worked alongside her at at Middle Tennessee years ago in the early 2000s, and saw her, number one, her loyalty. Number two, just what a phenomenal coach she was even back then. And then she went on to be a assistant at Alabama, and then had two small children and decided to go back to high school and just built a powerhouse at her alma mater, where she went to high school and won 3 state championships. And just the wealth of knowledge that she brings from a basketball standpoint, but also how she pours into our players and the excellence that she demands from them every single day. It starts with those guys. It really does. And Emily Hatfield has been such a tremendous addition to our staff, and is a rising star in this business. There's no question. So I have been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by the women that I'm surrounded by. And what's very, very cool is they all are different and unique in their own way. And they all are very special in their own way. But I think they all bring something different to the table. And the things that I'm not very good at, they're really good at. So they make me better each and every day. And, it's one thing to do something you love. But when you do something you love with people you love, that's when it's really, really special. So it's been a fun ride, and again, we're just getting started.
Well, that's great stuff, and an awesome staff, an awesome team. You brought it up earlier as we kind of shift the conversation to some of the non-coaching and non-job related things. Watching The Last Dance, for me, it feels like every Sunday is game day, getting ready for that. What I want to know is, what are some of the other things that you've been able to do throughout this time period of quarantine and social distancing, podcasts, books, going outside, and just what are some of the things you've been able to do?
Well, we talked about the virtual coaching clinics, which have been great. trying to figure out, one of the areas we want to grow is in rebounding and, putting more points on the board. And so, we've been doing a lot with that. I've been going back and watching a lot of film from this past year, things that we did well, things that we can get better at. But I'm also trying to, what we preach to our players all the time is take advantage of this time and also, kind of, I guess, recuperate myself a little bit as well. Cookeville and the Upper Cumberland is such a beautiful area. And I was fortunate enough about a year and a half ago to purchase some lake property with a beautiful view. And so if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen some of my pictures. So I have a little bit of a lake property that I go to and spend some time at. And so that's been fun. Just put my boat in last Saturday. So looking forward, hopefully, I think the weather is going to be good this weekend. So looking forward to social distance and be away from people, but still maybe hopefully be able to get on the water at some point in the near future. So, trying to grow in areas that we want to get better as a team, both on the court and off the court, but also, trying to grow personally as well. And some of that comes with, just kind of getting away from it a little bit and taking some downtime.
Starting to wrap it up here on Wings Up Weekly, and it kind of leads into some of the things that you just mentioned, some of the things that you just said about the fact of growing as a team and growing personally. What have been some of the areas or concepts or what have you that you've learned throughout the last several weeks in this truly unprecedented time?
I think the biggest thing is, and this is something that I live by anyway. You always want to grow. You always want to try to, whatever happens, you want to try to find the opportunity in that. And, I would be lying if I said, hey, every day's been a great day. There's been some moments in there where I go, goodness, I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready for some normalcy, but this also teaches you to embrace change. And there is one thing constant in life, and that's change. Things aren't ever going to remain the same. And, you've got to be willing to embrace it. And there's going to be a lot of change, not only, I'm not even talking about sports, I'm just talking about life that's going to come out of this moving forward. I was, I'm old enough that I lived through, 9/11, and I know how different our world was after 9/11, and our world is going to be different. There will come a time where we get back to some sense of normalcy, but I think I'm probably going to try to buy some stock in hand sanitizer moving forward, because I think we're all going to be much more aware of, how we go about things, how we interact with people, and things that I think we've taken for granted, that just as human beings, it's human nature, we're not entitled, we're not privileged to anything, we're not entitled to anything. What the things that we get to do, whether it be sports or going to school, or that is truly a privilege. And and appreciating just our nurses, our doctors, our teachers, all of those people that now I think we've got, not that we didn't have an appreciation for them before, but even so much before, our truck drivers that right now are keeping this country running, that are keeping, food in our homes. I think it's just, if you can't walk out of this with a greater sense of gratitude, then you've really wasted the time that the good Lord has given you. And I think that's just what we're trying to impart to all of our players, is just having an attitude of gratitude through all this. And look, there's been tremendous tragedy. There is no question about that. And we've either been touched by it or we know somebody that's been touched by it. But even in the midst of that, trying to, find gratitude in all of it.
Well, that's just so well said, Coach, and learned a lot just from hearing that. I hope the people that are watching this feel the same. What I'd like to do now, as we kind of end our time here, end this episode of Wings Up Weekly is to allow you to give a message, because there's so many supporters and fans of Tennessee Tech women's basketball. Obviously, huge following, a lot of energy in the Eblin Center night in and night out. So what would be your message or something you'd like to say to those fans and supporters as we kind of go forward during this time of uncertainty?
Yeah, and thank you for that, Dylan. I mean, first, we just want to say that we're thinking about you. You know, we're thinking of everyone. We miss you. We're praying for everyone to come out of this better and stronger and healthy. Also, want to say thank you. You know, we have the breakthroughs that we've made in this program. We're very, very proud of. You know, this has been the best 2-year stretch in almost over a decade. You know, as far as 22 conference wins the last 2 years, 39 overall wins. You know, there hasn't been a stretch like this since around 2010. And we know we have not done that on our own. Our fans play a huge role and a huge part of that. You know, we finished, I believe we finished second in overall attendance in the OVC. I think we led the OVC in OVC attendance for home attendance in January and February. And we thank you. You know, we thank you for your support. We thank you for the way you love this team. We thank you for all you do, not only for Tennessee Tech women's basketball, for all of Tennessee Tech. And, you know, there's going to be some challenging days moving forward for all of us, whether it be in our personal lives or, you know, or the new normal as we enter fall and hope to get back on campus. But, you know, we thank you and we recognize all that you do for us, and we can't be who we are without you. And so we wish you all the best, and we are anxiously anticipating the days of being able to see your faces again, being able to be at sporting events again on campus, and we look forward to all that.
All right, Coach. Well, appreciate you joining us here on Wings Up Weekly. It was great to see you. Stay safe out there. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks so much, Dylan. Wings up.
Wings up.